Hey, good whatever time of day it is for you. It's Alex coming at you, not really live, but here from the place I'm at with another episode of the Lost Souls podcast. Now I know that I wish I didn't sound so melancholy and down all the time, but it seems to work to some extent, even if it doesn't attract views or anything. But today we're going to talk about the gamification of society, and specifically how social media and the internet in the modern era have turned everything into a game that, while I would like to say is pointless, is not, because people put status and value behind it. And so it's a meaningful game that really doesn't stand for anything. Now, what do I mean by this? With the rise of things like Twitter and Facebook and social media, where there's now like a click-based system for how you attract your attention and status in the world by what you're doing and how many people seem to like it and how funny you are and why exactly you seem to be wearing a macaroni hat on your head in the middle of a Halloween parade. Stuff like that. This is what life has become. Because, like, what do people do? Do people actually just go do stuff and they're like, oh, hey, like, feel good, exciting moment? Or are they like, yeah, I'm gonna have to see how crazy I can make this shit so I can get attention? Right? That doesn't sound like real life, does it? No, it sounds like a game. And I think this is even bleeding over into, like, workplaces and what have you. And I'm going to take like a stance here that's going to be controversial if anybody hears it, but it's like even into like the world of the workplace and guided by professionalism. And what do you mean by what do I mean by that? Well, professionalism is like the idea that there's a certain way you conduct yourself when you're behaving in a workplace environment that you might not conduct yourself otherwise, up to a higher standard or some such or something such as that. A higher standard that is above how regularly you act. Now, I would, at first, draw a line in the sand there and say that's bullshit. I shouldn't have to, put on some fake ass persona to be allowed into a place of employment. Not only because that, well, it necessarily excludes you from being involved in social outings and social connections while in the workplace. So you have to deal with that, or at least I have to deal with that. I'm not. Apparently, people find a balance there, and I don't see how. But it more than that, it gives rise to these certain sets of rules and certain sets of places. And when you're in certain contexts, these contexts operate on certain assumptions and rules. Now, to me, that sounds like a video game, and maybe that's why I've played video games my whole life. But like, I gotta draw a line and see, well, what separates video games from reality in the first place? And well, in the real world, it's not just that one is played with a medium to a controller on a machine, and the other is real life. It's that in real life there doesn't seem to be any inherent structures or rules like that. And now I can hear the pushback, like, what about society in the first place? That seems to have structures and rules. Well, I guess the difference now would be that society, you don't have a choice about what game you play, right? Now, what does that even mean? Well, it means that you have to live multiple lives in order to have one fulfilling one. It means that in order to have any success within the world, you got to play that world game. And then people even talk about this and acknowledge it, play the game of life. It's like, look, man, like, is that what you really want the world to be? Like, yeah, I get it. It used to be like most people were peasants and, got treated like shit in the dirt. And you're like, well, let's make this better by making it a game. Oh, really? Because that's going to solve all the world's problems by making winners and losers the fucking. The world always had winners and losers, and the issue wasn't. It wasn't that everybody could be a winner, it was that you looked at losers and had this negative connotation experience with them. Back in the Middle Ages, the losers were just born into it. And now, let me guess. Let's take it. Let's just explore this for a second. And now, in the game of winners and losers, in the game of life, the winners and losers, who wins and who loses? Is it that the winners are the wealthier individuals who have more opportunities and advantages, and the losers are the poor people who have to struggle more and often don't break out of that, curse cycle of poverty? No, that couldn't be it, right? Because that would mean that the whole fucking charade that we put on for society's sake is like bullshit. Yeah, it's kind of because it is. And you see this very prevalently, especially in modern dating. Because in modern dating, we have these dating apps to where you swipe on people, and it's about who can build the best profile. And if you can build a good profile, and then you pass that test, and now, but you got to keep a girl's attention if you're a guy. If you're a girl, you just get to sit back and like absorb it and choose. But if you're a guy, then it becomes a game of, well, only the best get to date the women. Well, that's wonderful and all, but isn't dating like kind of part of the human experience? Isn't that kind of like something that people do just as a byproduct of existing? Modern dating would say no. No, actually, it's something you do when you're considered to be the good in society or held up. And I know that sounds like ridiculous because there are tons of people who are dating and don't follow those guidelines and aren't like the best, but they still are a winner in some sort in the dating game. They're able to attract mates that way. They're people, I say mates very loosely because it's really just a partner to spend time with, but it ends up being like, well, you have to, be able to talk to somebody nonstop all day and, be attractive enough and funny enough, and then, we get to choose. It's really, I think it's once dating enters the dating app sphere, it's all over for most guys. Like, once a girl is like, I'm going to get on Tinder, most guys are like, at that point, dating with that woman is over because she's only going to choose the best from that point forward. Or what's best to available. Because, like, to some extent, like, these guys that get swiped left on, and I guess I'm biased because I'm the guy that, don't never bother to, message back or give a shot. And, that's, maybe I'm biased because I'm a loser here, and you can take that in whatever context you want. But at the end of the day, the people, I'm part of the population that gets fucked over by it because, like, I don't have any recourse now. Like, I've tried my best for so long to just, feel defeated at the end, and it's like I'm done trying, and I'm not the only one because the people who are done trying, it's not like, oh, we're giving up. It's like, no matter how hard we try, we're not going to be good enough, and never will be. So what's the point in chasing a goal that's never going to lead us to like positive outcomes? If it's just like, oh, well, you can just spend your life getting fucking damaged and hurt and be unhappy, or you can just spend your life unhappy, not getting damaged and hurt. Right? And so, of course, the choice is I'm just going to, leave it unhappy anyway. And I wish that wasn't the case. I wish that, like, we didn't gamify it to the point to where these losers are losers and there'll always be losers, and there's just nothing they can do about it. Because once you get to about 24, and, I've never been on a date, and I've never explored getting to know somebody on that kind of level, but it's like, I'm sure one of the questions is, how many girlfriends have you had? I'm sure that comes up at some point, and I'm sure at whatever point that happens, if it ever happens for me, and I go, well, I've never had a girlfriend before, that's going to be one of the biggest red flags right there, and they're probably going to be like, oh, I'm done with this guy immediately. Just because at that point, it's determined, oh, he's not been playing the game very well. He's kind of bad at this. Maybe I shouldn't give him a chance, right? I can't even, and I don't even get to be unhappy about that. because then I'm, not a good person. I'm a piece of shit because I dared have an opinion about something that affected me, and that opinion wasn't in line with mainstream thinking, and therefore I'm the bad guy. I just wish that obviously I wish that I had a bit more chance in the world. Obviously, I wish that there was some place, way, shape, form, or fashion in which I guess, quote unquote, won. But, that doesn't exist in the world. Maybe I just grew up on, consolation trophies, and maybe that's what's wrong with me. When I was a kid, I got rewarded for just showing up. And, yeah, now that's not enough, and I need to just have that be broken into me somehow. I don't know. But, I'd like to say that that's all it is. It's like, oh, well, it's the fact that participation trophies exist. That's why I'm feeling today. It's ridiculous for me to even think about it that way, because of course not. At the end of the day, of course that's not what's actually happening. Of course it's a lot deeper than that. Of course. But I don't think that's where it started, because at the end of the day, it's like, well, if I want to be objective about it, when I was a kid and got consolation trophies, if I didn't get trophies then, I never would have been congratulated or rewarded for anything. Because apparently the trophies are meant to make you work harder, because I want the prestige and I want the attention, but it was like, no, I never wanted that. I just wanted to live a life where I could be happy, and according to the rest of the world, that is something determined by your prestige. I couldn't care less about that. I couldn't care less about whether or not I have some big trophy sitting on a wall or some big plaque sitting behind me. It's not what I live for. I don't live for the adoration of other people. In fact, I barely live at all. I could be content with one person being happy to be in my presence, but even that seems to be too much for the universe to, bring into my life. And I wish I was joking. But I'm supposed to be talking about gamification, all off topic again. And I think it really shows up again in the workplace. Because what is the hiring process like at places that aren't like fast food? Because at fast food, the whole point is, oh, well, you're going to show up, we'll take anybody, and just listen to us, do whatever the fuck, and work your ass off all day for minimum wage. Really? I think everybody should. I firmly believe that every single person that works a fast food job should just quit. Let's let all the fast food restaurants fail. You'd be like, really? That seems like so reductive, and it's like, no, because people need to realize how important this shit is, so they can pay them reasonably for what's being done. Because now it's being relied on the minimum wage to keep up with I don't have a problem with people being paid a lesser wage for lesser work, but if you're gonna have somebody paid minimum wage, pretty much in my opinion, what you should get from that is that somebody kind of shows up and does some stuff, right? Because that's minimum effort. Minimum effort is actually showing up and kind of doing some stuff, right? And paying somebody 50% over minimum wage, well, that's like them getting to show up and do a decent amount of stuff, right? Because the top earners just go up and up and up, and you're assuming that responsibilities and goals increase with the amount of wage you get. Well, here's the thing, and people will be like, oh, the world just works that way. Well, shut the fuck up, and let's actually analyze this for a second. Because my energy isn't some fucking commodity that you need to sell on the open market, because you don't really get to sit here and choose whether or not you have to earn an income or not. And yeah, I'm a bit biased because I'm waiting for the crushing debt to swallow me whole. That's a terrible idea, by the way. Don't be like me. I'm doing it because I'm a dumbass who can't hold a job because it forces me to adhere to principles which I don't respect, and adhere to power systems which I don't wish to uphold, because they only seek to hold people down, and I refuse to be a part of a system which does that. And, that's a moral standpoint that's gonna fuck me over, and I was gonna say a longer run, but it's already fucking me over, and I don't know how much longer I got before it fucks me into the ground. Because I guess people have different reasons. I'm able to make it right now, barely somehow, but like a lot of people have to work these jobs to just live, to have a place to live, a roof over their heads, and food to eat. And I guess blessed is the word, but it's fortunate enough to not be in a situation currently where I have to do that. And I suppose that if I am faced with that situation and I'm forced to choose between a power structure, which I abhor and force me to act in a certain way, which doesn't actually align with who I am or what I want to be, I will have to, and then deal with the ramifications of not only not being myself and sacrificing who I am and what I believe, but also being broken into a system which I sorely hate and makes me sick on the daily. Now that may be like, oh, well, you should just love society. Like, really, this is like, you should just like get over it and move on with your life. That's like a one way of looking at it, and it's like, I just disagree, because getting over it and moving on is exactly how I've been fucked over every single time that I've tried to live a life. I've tried to do something, because it's like I'm just societally determined to be one of these losers, right? And if you're a loser, then people can get away with doing anything to you, right? You're on the fucking chopping block, and there's nothing you can do about it, except. And then when you try to fight back, say I actually have a backbone, and I'm going to tell you that you're being a bullshit piece of fuck, and you need to shut the fuck up because none of this shit's right. You're going to be like, oh no, like this is all completely laid out and exactly how we're supposed to behave and react in this certain situation. And it's like, well, other people do the same fucking thing I do, and I'm the one who gets reprimanded. And it's like, well, they're winning the game. Oh, so you determine the actions people can take by how well they're perceived in the status of reality, and not actually how they actually act and conduct themselves within a workplace environment or whatever. And it's like, it's all just a game, man. Or maybe I'm just justifying things to make myself feel better, and maybe I'm just spouting exposition. It's not even exposition; it's the ramblings of a madman, and sideways in some relation to a topic that he sets at the start of a talking session, in hopes that I find some level of clarity or peace at myself at the end of it. All of these, I'm sure, are completely fucking ridiculous, and anybody who listens like, this man doesn't have a single coherent thought the entire time he's sitting behind a microphone. And I'm like, it's fair. It's fair, like, I'm realizing that, but it's not going to stop me from like continuing to put shit like this out here. If for no other reason than I feel some sense of satisfaction from having sat down and talked about stuff that I feel isn't being talked about, or that gets swept under the rug and treated like it's just like, because we don't even question the inherent rules of the society we live in. We see it as, as long as we're born into it and this is the way it works, and there's no point even questioning it and just get along with the program. But people don't seem to realize the inherent issues which lie with the very structures which we take for granted, right? Because to me, that seems what it's coming down to. Like, well, you can't just hate society because of the way it's structured. Well, if the societal structure is a reason for the misfortune I experience on the daily, I'm just supposed to accept that as truth? Oh, right, because suffering is inherent to the human experience unless you're willing to bend and give up anything that you have of your own accord, or anything that you have pride in order to, what? Oh, that's right, make $10 an hour and live in poverty, right? Unless you win even better, right? Unless you can win more. In which case, the more you win, the more you get to experience, the more you get to do. And I'm like, man, I just want to live a life that's okay. Like, I don't care about owning some fucking mansion. I don't care about having the nicest car in the world or the nicest phone in the world. I don't care about getting all this fucking attention on social media, and I don't care about whatever prestigious job title that people want to hand me. I want to be able to live a life that I can be proud of, that's, I have friends who respect me as a human being, because to me, respecting somebody as a human being would lead to never treating people the way that people get treated on a daily fucking basis. But, and so to me, most people don't have respect for other human beings. They have respect for the fucking game. And the game ends up being about how much money you can make and how much you can't buy happiness with money. You can't buy fulfillment with money. Yeah, you can buy food with money. You can buy a place to live with money, and you can get around and go on vacations with money, but you can't sit there. No amount of money is going to turn me from a sad fucking sack to a happy, functional individual, right? And I say that, in the best way possible, because this is the thing, is that instead of me actually spending my time pursuing things which make me happy or make me find fulfillment, I'm expected to spend a majority of my time doing something that makes money for the sake of making money, being somebody I'm not, because that's who I have to be in order to work a fucking job, and all in order to be shit on anyway, because the status of whatever I'm doing isn't high enough to be considered desirable by any woman in the world, all while being held with my hand held behind my back because, well, you're in a workplace environment and you can't actually pursue regular social interactions here because you're supposed to be working for the entire time you're on the clock here, because while you're working, your time isn't your own, it's actually belonging to the company, and whenever you spend 10 minutes fucking around, you're stealing time. Imagine that. Think about the concept of stealing time for a second, because to a company, when you're not working your ass off every second that you're employed there, you're stealing their time, when actually it's your time in the fucking first place. Isn't that ridiculous, right? Because I'm already choosing to spend my time here making some kind of workplace environment function properly, and if I have to take a second in the middle of that to just exist, I'm stealing time. That's why you get regulated breaks, yes, because 15 minutes over the course of 8 hours is enough leeway and break time to actually properly get myself centered, as long as it's done in accordance and on the company's fucking schedule. Sorry, I went off on another tangent there. But it's not like I'm sitting here making ridiculous claims, just claims that don't seem to exist within the context of a certain society that we live in. And maybe, because of that reason, people seem to think I'm spouting ridiculous nonsense. Back on the subject of winners and losers, I do want to point out the fact that in the societal game of winners and losers, if we took away all the rules, say we placed everybody in, say we just turned back society to a place to where there weren't any fucking buildings, there weren't any fucking pre-established structures or reasons for existence, these people who are winners would become losers real quick. I hope that the world realizes that you're propping up a way of living which doesn't actually exist in what I'm going to consider the real world. Even though people consider the societies that we've built the real world, yeah, they have real physical structure, but they're not natural. They're man-made. And to me, something that's man-made doesn't necessarily mean it's quote-unquote real. It means that it's a structure which can be upended. And people take that for granted, that oh, well, this is always how it's been and it's always how it's going to continue to be. It's no, if there wasn't rules for how this shit was going down, this would not play out like this. If we lived in a system of anarchy, these winners wouldn't be able to fend for themselves. These men that you call high status or whatever, because I don't think the role of I think women would be, I say that, never mind, I take that completely back. That would be awful for women. Yeah, I just really examined how that would play out, and I don't know how it would play out, but I have an idea of how it would play out, and it probably wouldn't be too pretty. I get the reason for having rules and structures within society, but they're at the same level, it's these reasons are reductive, because there are definitely things that people could do and exist in ways that people could go about their lives that are not adequate for society nowadays, that are not acceptable for society nowadays. And because you've defined what lies is acceptable and unacceptable, and when people lie outside of what is considered acceptable, it's wrong and bad, and it's shameful, and we gotta shun them. And it's like, until they change. Seriously, when people have to change for others, people have to change for themselves. And I guess a lot of people are just trying to live day to day. Shit gets in the way of it. Again, enough with my rambling. I've rambled enough. I wonder if there'll ever get a point to where I actually talk about the topic I'm supposed to be talking about. Probably not. If you've listened this far, genuinely thank you, because, well, really, I've got a question for you. What the hell is wrong with you? I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that, but, like, why are you listening to me? These are just something I'm putting up, so there's something to remember me by. Otherwise, I'll just be lost in the annals of time. I'll be lost in the annals of time anyway, but at least with this, there's something that might live on past me. Anyway, sayonara. I think that's bye.